October 8th, 2024. Well, the FEMA relief effort based on the Hurricane Helene, and of course, we're now having a new Hurricane Milton, which is extremely threatening coming in too, has been very poor. In fact, pretty abysmally poor, I think, overall. I think it's very slow into getting into action, and it looks like there's been a lot of political um, activity going on, which has been misleading and so forth. But I think that David Axelrod, who was a key advisor to Obama, has kind of let the cat out of the bag, I think. See, the areas in North Carolina in particular that were greatly devastated, and I'm sure you've all seen on the news, um, are disproportionately Republican areas. And in fact, I think the amount of areas that about 140,000 people, I believe, were in the North Carolina um, regions that were in West North Carolina that was heavily impacted. I think is kind of an overwhelmingly Republican area, although there's many Democrats there too. But in fact, if the vote there was 100% suppressed, it might be enough to, for instance, almost eliminate the 1.5% of the vote advantage that the Trump had in the 2020 election, which he won. And so it becomes interesting to see whether or not that this sluggish relief effort, which is maybe finally starting to get underway, but really hasn't been hit with the kind of intensity one would think you'd have with a catastrophe of that magnitude, may finally get underway. But I think that it seems to me like that this is having the potential political advantage of possibly flipping North Carolina to the Democrats, or at least making it such a squeaker that will be stuck into recounts and controversies. And of course, even more so, given that a large number of absentee ballots had been mailed out just before the storm hit, and while I think about 1,000 had been received back, the bulk haven't. And of course, what happened to them? Were they destroyed in the floods and houses being destroyed, or what? And I think that's could lead to a lot of confusion, opportunities for mayhem, and so forth in what is a competitive state. So anyhow, I think that's. But the comments that David Axelrod made that essentially that he's hoping his affluent Democrat voters will be able to find a way to vote where the allegedly less affluent Trump voters will be so mired in their own survival that they won't be able to do anything about this. And I can see that this could therefore correlate to why the relief effort hasn't been so great there. By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. We need more subscriptions. I appreciate those that have subscribed. And for those that are subscribed, you can click the bell for notifications. Of course, you can also find me on Rumble if, in fact, you're not on YouTube. But at any rate, so that's I think that maybe he's letting the cat out of the bag as to why the effort isn't quite what it ought to be. Because if they can suppress the vote in those areas, they might very well flip what would be a state that would have gone to the Republicans to the Democrats, or at least have it mired in controversy where some judge will probably end up deciding what the answer is or something. I think that's very interesting. I mean, look at how the relief effort, how bad it was in East Palestine, Ohio, after the train derailment. I mean, all the toxic waste and how slow it's been to get anything to help them out, and how that was treated. And so I think that while there's a lot of devastation in Georgia too, I don't think it's probably has the same propensity to influence the outcome, perhaps. At any rate, and certainly the governor there is much more on the ball, I think, about getting relief in there. And I don't get the idea that the damage was quite as severe overall, or the areas are quite as isolated. Finally, at last, I hear the Army is finally getting involved, but how many people died in the meantime? I mean, that might have been saved. I mean, this is, I think what I'm saying is, let's imagine that this thing had hit a predominantly Democrat area. I have a feeling the response would have been much stronger. I mean, part of it may just be attributed to the Biden-Harris administration's incompetence, and I don't disagree with that. But I also think there may be a lack of initiative too. And it's interesting that, of course, it could backfire. Maybe some of the independent voters there may get mad and vote for Trump as a little payback for the way they've been treated. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I think this is may have a political dimension to it. And of course, now we have this crazy thing where Kamala Harris is attacking Ron DeSantis, claiming that he didn't want to talk to her or something, where in fact apparently he never got the call. We'll see how that one plays out, but it looks like that's another, well, either a dirty trick or just more incompetence, if you will. So, all right, that's kind of the way I see that issue playing out for the moment. Briefly, let's get into the general election. Since last time we've had a video out, I think the Trump has improved by 0.1%, and the Real Clear Politics averaged a 2.1% advantage for Harris instead of 2.2. So it looks like basically that Trump is gaining strength. He's gaining strength in the betting markets also. And there's a sense that, the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes appearance was less than might be desired from the general perception of being presidential. At least we've learned one thing. We've learned what kind of gun she owns. She has a Glock, and she claims she has shot it. So I guess she's had some practice. Anyway, remember, don't invade her house. She is armed and ready to protect herself. But I don't know. I mean, it's actually that one doesn't surprise me. Being a former prosecutor out in California, they can get a license to carry a lot easier out there, I think, than ordinary citizens can. So I think that could explain it's sort of a legacy of that background. And it's being used to sort of dissuade people that are pro-Second Amendment to think they have nothing to worry about. But actually you do. And I have noticed that Elon Musk has picked up a little bit of the type of message I've been trying to put out. I wish the main campaign would get there a little bit more on the basic threat to our system that they pose. But at least the fact that Elon was kind of echoing that in his appearance in Butler, Pennsylvania, which I think is good. I think that's a very positive development. And so anyhow, that's kind of what I see about the situation. I think it's competitive, but I think that the Trump may be starting to gain a little bit in spite of the financial advantages the Democrats seem to have. Although I haven't seen, at least where I am, many Trump ads, let's put it that way. And so anyhow, that's about that. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen in the Middle East on another topic, which I covered in my last video in a bit more detail. Israel hasn't retaliated yet for the missile attack, and I'm given the restrictions that the administration is putting on them, added to the fact that I think without more active support from the U.S., I'm not sure what kind of a counterattack would be worth the provocation it would give to the Iranians to do another wave of missile strikes. I mean, sooner or later they could get lucky. I mean, so I mean they so and like I say, Israel's pretty much committed to their activities against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and it seems to me, like I said before, I think that would be a more likely priority than trying to get into a tit for tat with Iran, which probably wouldn't be decisive. There is one other slightly ominous thing that's floating out there, which has got no real official confirmation, but rumors were floating around because there was an earthquake in Iran that was of a unique nature, in which there was no aftershocks, and it was in the range of about 4.5%, which might suggest kind of a nuclear test of a basic basic atomic warhead of some type, probably pure fission, in other words. And so whether or not Iran actually did a test or not, it is interesting that they did mention that their response to an Israeli attack might be of an unconventional nature. If anybody knows the language of the Middle East on this, when Israel talks about their program, they always refer to the issue of unconventional weapons. So they could be mirroring that back, or this could all just be maybe Iranian propaganda. So at any rate, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'll be wrapping this up for now. Until let's see here, I'll be posting all this on YouTube and Rumble, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. So all for this time.